divorce is kind of death. Imagine a person is on deathbed and they are holding on to life. They're like, no, I'm not going to leave this body. I'm just going to stay here. So what we usually do, we put that person on ventilator and we can keep them for like 5. But are they doing anything? They're just laying there. That is how most of us are when we are in a relationship that has already served its purpose. I think one of the beautiful gifts of divorce is you get to be with yourself. And especially if you're doing like, child custody. So when the kids are with the other partner, now it is you by yourself. But you're not in college. You're much more mature and grown, and you're with yourself, you're with your thoughts. So when my marriage was falling apart and there was betrayal, there was cheating going on, and the first thing that came to my mind, there's something wrong with me. And as soon as we go against ourselves, now we have nothing to stand on. It's like now you're just suspended in midair and it feels like a free fall. Every morning when I woke up, that was the first card I took out from under my pillow and I read it. It's almost like you're telling yourself, hey, wake up. You're so powerful. It's not that you're a failure, loser, but you are building something different and new. And doing that 30 days in a row, I never had panic attack. But like my husband, he's truly the other part of my soul. We both are born on the exact same day, exact same time. So living with him is literally living with a mirror. He has same issues that I have and same gifts that I have. It is so fascinating to live with that. But the path that it took to get to him, the shift that had to happen within me to attract him, as you're talking about, that was the process of coming back to me, coming back to my heart, coming back to the place that I had abandoned a long time ago. And when we come back to ourselves, it's almost like we attract another part of us back to us in terms of a relationship. My son is definitely so much happier after the divorce. His dad is so much happier. Because if his dad was not good for me, I was not good for him either. With another person, he did really good in his career. He's blooming. I can see his growth and expansion. We don't realize when we are stuck in this toxic relationship, we all are contributing to keep each other small.
Welcome to Season 2 of the Just Separate podcast. I'm Karen Oman, a thanatologist, grief counselor, divorce strategist, and co-author of the Just Separated workbook. I help people navigate the emotional, legal, and practical challenges of divorce, including high conflict and narcissist relationships. Each week, I am joined by expert guests to share guidance, tools, and strategies so you can move forward with clarity, confidence, and resilience. Follow Just Separated and join us as we explore the many layers of divorce. Subscribe so you never miss an episode. Hi, welcome to Just Separate podcast. I'm your host, Karen Oman, co-founder of Divorce Workshop. Today we're going to be talking about finding your center when your world is falling apart, and our expert guest is Alia Jamal. Alia is the heart mentor. Doesn't teach women how to fix themselves. She guides them back to the center they lost when life required them to brace. Her own journey moved through a marriage falling apart, inner ground disappearing, and a season where staying alive required deliberate choice. In 2019, she encountered the heart, not as a metaphor, but as a living intelligence, and everything changed. Through sustained grief and loss, she learned to remain not by numbing or collapsing, but by inhabiting the heart as a place to live from. Now she guides others to their heart intuition. Welcome, Alia, to the Just Separate podcast.
Thank you so much, Karen. I'm so excited to have this conversation, and I'm so grateful that, we are here today.
So, Alia, you call yourself the heart mentor. For most women going through divorce, whether they were blindsided by a partner leaving or they finally found the courage to walk away themselves, the heart feels heavy and broken for some. It feels like the things were failing them. Why do you tell women that their heart isn't a problem to be solved, but actually the only safe, sovereign ground left to stand on?
Thank you so much for asking that question. So I will start with, where my journey started. So when my marriage was falling apart and there was betrayal, there was cheating going on. And the first thing that came to my mind, there's something wrong with me. And as soon as we go against ourselves, now we have nothing to stand on. It's like now you're just suspended in midair and it feels like a free fall. And you feel that in the pit of your stomach, it just feels like a pit, like you're just going down, down, down. There's no going up from there. Um, Going through my own journey, and as I saw what was helping me heal, what was helping me come back to my center, it was finding that inner ground. It's not that my heart was broken, I got disconnected from it because
Mm.
I turned against myself. And especially when you're going through divorce, no matter what culture you come from, how supportive or unsupportive your family is, there will always be this nagging feeling that you're a failure. Even if you put everything in there, even you're the one who's walking away when you're going through that grief, people will tell you, and it was me walking away eventually after 5 years of excruciating pain. People will say, well, you're the one filed for divorce. Why are you crying? And we don't realize the grief that is attached to like your whole life shifting, your identity shifting. And the reason heart feels heavy because we abandoned it. We went with, there's something wrong with me. It was my fault. There's massive guilt. If kids are involved, the guilt is even more. So what I show a woman how to come back to that heart, how to repair that relationship with themselves. And that is when you feel so rooted and centered. And from that place, you can face anything. You can rebuild yourself. You can rebuild your career. I personally went through, as soon as I filed for divorce, pandemic started a week after it. So it was a shutdown. And then 2 months later, I got laid off. So I had nothing left. There was no income left. There was, kid was 6 years old at that time. It's a very young child. Um, but the more I worked on coming back to my heart, where I'm not abandoning myself, that is what helped me feel more grounded. And it gave me the energy to rebuild myself, to rebuild a different kind of life.
What I really liked what you said there too is, and I had a bit of an aha moment, was we disconnected from our heart.
Yeah.
We always say broken heart, but actually I thought, yeah, we just disconnected from it. So
Yeah.
you help women find it again. Is that right?
Exactly. To reconnect, because, like my specialty is to be able to see those threads that have been cut off within you, or there's a knot in them. We can't really see them, but that is what I study or work on. And that is my specialty. I can help a person see, like, because you just said this, that means there's this going on within you and the relationship you have with yourself. And the relationship we have with ourselves is the relationship we have with our heart. Heart is the seat of the soul. So the life that breathes through me, it has an anchor. That anchor is in the middle of our chest. And when we are going through something, I will say as traumatic as divorce, it is traumatic on so many levels. We need to be logical. We need to think through. In divorce, we need to look at paperwork. We need to make specific decisions. So we go to our head and we stay there. And it's almost like we go to our head and then we attack ourselves unconsciously from there, because that is the conditioning. The conditioning in our society is, no matter you're a man or a woman, if you're going through divorce, you're definitely a loser. You must have done something wrong. And, there's just so much, I will say, um, negative connotation to the word divorce itself. So then it's easy for us to turn against ourselves. So instead of having our fort in our head, we can come back to our heart, repair and heal that relationship. And what it looks like is acceptance. Accepting that, my journey is not exactly same as maybe my sister or my friend. Maybe their marriage lasted like 30 years, mine didn't. Accepting that the path I am on looks different. It's unique to me. It's not that there's something wrong with me. It's not that I'm a loser. When we slowly start to repair how we see ourselves and that acceptance gets deeper and deeper, it becomes safe to come back into our heart and we start to feel that love for ourselves all over again. It's not that we really needed the love of our partner. All along, what we really need is very deep, unconditional love from ourselves. Where I'm not going to abandon myself. I'm not going to cheat on myself and make someone else more like a higher priority than myself. So as we create those shifts, and we can create those shifts, like if someone is listening and they are in the midst of divorce right now, just shift these things. Like if you find yourself like attacking yourself or going into guilt and judgment, just move to acceptance and, this is a path I'm going on through right now. I have no idea why I'm going through it, why I had to be the person in the family to walk through this path, but this is what is in front of me. And leaning into that curiosity, that in itself open up our heart and we start to feel immediately whole and complete. Now, if we can sustain that from moment to moment, then we get to feel whole and complete right there. It doesn't require a lot of effort because it is really just your awareness being in your head, moving into your heart, reconnecting and really living like a child. If anyone is listening, they have kids, they just show up. They just show up to the day, they show up to the play date. They don't have any story attached. They don't have any agenda. They don't have a very strong opinion of themselves either, whether it's positive or negative. That is how it feels to live within our heart or connected with our heart. And when someone is
Do you
going
think
through
a lot?
divorce,
Oh, sorry.
when someone is
Go
going through
ahead.
divorce, if they can look at themselves that way, I'm just a kid playing here and let's see what happened next. That is how it feels like being in our heart and connected to it. Um,
I love what you said with curiosity. It's one of those, we're so overwhelmed at the beginning of it all. And I know we have to get through a lot of stuff, but just that if you could just change, like you said, like that mindset where it's like, just be a little curious, right? Do you
yeah.
find a lot of women, though, get stuck? Like they get kind of heavy in it all and they because we've been looking after everybody else, right? And I'm thinking of many of my clients, but many probably of yours, where it's like I look after the children, I was a wife, I had my career, I did, and there was nothing of them, right? And they had lost a lot of themselves. So do you think it's hard for us as women to kind of,
Oh,
think of
definitely.
ourselves more?
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the beautiful gift of divorce is you get to be with yourself. And especially if you're doing child custody. So when the kids are with the other partner, now it is you by yourself, but you're not in college. You're much more mature and grown and you're with yourself. You're with your thoughts. I think the beautiful opportunity that comes to get to know yourself on a much deeper level than you did when you were in your early 20s. That is the biggest blessing. But what happens because it is so uncomfortable really going deep within ourselves or reconnecting with our heart, it is much easier to blame someone like, that person cheated on me. That's why I'm hurting. What we do, we go for distraction. So what we usually do, we will hang out with our girlfriend. We'll go eat out. Some people right away jump into dating because they need to be distracted. Some people start extensive traveling. So anytime kids are not with them, they're traveling somewhere and they label it as I'm living my life. Um, but what I suggest to my clients, anyone who's listening going through divorce, stay put. Sit in that discomfort now, repair and heal the relationship now. It's almost like, hit it when it's hot. Right now, everything is out in the open. You're crying anyway. Why not cry and focus on how can I love myself a little bit more? How can I connect with myself a little bit more? So giving ourselves that alone time, that is what gets us unstuck. And the stuckness comes from that identity. Like, I was a wife, I had in-laws, and there was there was a different way people looked at me because I had, husband and the kid. That is the truth, the unconscious truth that is at the back of everybody's mind. And now I'm a single person. And I'm not getting invited to even birthday parties because all the couples are going to be there. So no one wants me there as a single person. That is the bitter truth of like a lot of us when we go through divorce. So there is a huge identity shift. If we don't do that work, if we don't switch from my identity is not that I am a woman or I'm a mom or I'm a wife or a housewife, my identity is I am a powerful being. And I have the capacity to create whatever I want. If we can create that identity shift while we are going through that very, very difficult process, I think that is when we don't get stuck. Eventually, even after 10 years, like I have talked to people who got divorced like 30 years ago. And now they're doing that identity shift work because they're still living in that sense of responsibility. And I need to carry, even though the kids are like 25 and 30 years old. So that identity never shifted from, oh, I was this and I lost it. What's wrong with me to, oh, I can recreate whatever I want. And I'll share a very quick story with you. I believe it was a year and a half after my divorce, I started having panic attacks. And it was very interesting when and how it will happen. The very first time it happened, I brought it to my mentor and I said, I can't live with panic attacks. I have a young child. I don't have anyone to look after him. I couldn't even drive. Wherever I'll go, I cannot drive past 25 miles per hour. So I had to stay on the local roads. That was not very convenient. So he told me to pay attention to what's going on an hour before the panic attack starts and what is the thought process. So I became really, really curious. And what I found the thought was usually it happened when I was around a family. They're having fun or something. And here I am sitting single. Usually it happened around that time. So the thought was I lost that. And that created a loop of fear and anxiety. And eventually my body got involved with a full blown panic attack. So what he told me, he said, write on a piece of paper, I made a decision and I can make a decision to create something else. So that was rewiring my mind. Every morning when I woke up, that was the first card I took out from under my pillow and I read it. It's almost like you're telling yourself, hey, wake up. You're so powerful. It's not that you're a failure or loser, but you are building something different and new. And doing that 30 days in a row, I never had panic attack. And I have gone through more difficult moments after that, but my nervous system never got out of control because it was too overwhelmed, because now it's convinced, oh, we can rebuild whatever we want. We have that power. So I think a good chunk has to do with that identity shift.
I was just thinking that's kind of like a new muscle, right? It's kind of
Yeah,
like practicing, like what you said there too is 30 days, right? It's not like, there's no quick fix, right? It's not, okay, I do it once and the panic attacks will stop, right? Like it is, you have to do it
exactly.
like a ritual, like every day you were doing it to help. Would that also be helping with self-trust as well, like building up that self-trust in yourself again? Because things with divorce, right, like you marry, you've said those vows, whatever they are, and you trusted that of yourself, like you said, I picked that person, and that was, and then you go through this and you go, even if you chose to leave, which a lot of us did, you don't trust yourself as much because you're like, wow, look at that big mistake, right? So does that type of exercise, is there any exercise you have, do they need, and like I'm thinking we do all need to rebuild our self-trust in ourselves after we've gone through a divorce. So
Exactly, because that is um it's almost like, so I would tell you, when my life fell apart, I had no idea what's real anymore. Like if a friend is coming to me and they're saying words, I'll be like, is that even real? You don't trust anything after that, because it's almost like I say, it was kind of like there was a rip in the universe for me that never got fixed. Trust is a very interesting thing. It is not trust in another person. It is, of course, trust in ourselves. And the way we repair trust in ourselves is by being by your side. Don't abandon yourself. Because it's almost like there's a part within us that's like, okay, you said you're going to do this and then you quit it midway. So, like, it doesn't make sense to me. It's almost like there's a part of us that is confused after we made that choice. That is when we seek consultation from ourselves before doing anything, and also stay present. And what does that mean? Do not run away from yourself. When it becomes very uncomfortable, instead of calling a girlfriend and going out, yes, we can do that sometime when it becomes too overwhelming, but also at the same time, sit with yourself, sit with that discomfort. The more you'll give yourself your attention, the same part will say, oh, I know she made a different choice, but she's still here. She has not abandoned me. I know that person abandoned me, but she has not abandoned me. That is what starts to repair self-trust. So, for example, I can share with the audience, like I went through divorce in 2020, and in 2024, I remarried. And when I was coming close to the decision to even putting myself out there for really looking for a partner. I was before dating just to see who I attract based on the inner work I was doing. And it's so interesting. The more I worked on myself and healed my relationship, I started to attract higher quality people who were present. They were emotionally available. So when I'm getting closer to making this decision, okay, I met this person, he's amazing, and I'm going to marry him. I made the decision within 21 days of seeing him. It was very, very fast. The way I made the decision, I told myself, to that part of me that was like, I'm not sure. Are you crazy? You're going to go for it again. I said to that part of me that, maybe this would be the biggest mistake of my life, but how about I make this mistake and then see what happens? So I gave myself the permission to make a mistake. So I let myself go through it, and I did not have the support of my family. So you can say I got married all by myself, did everything by myself, having like, a kid in the tow as well. And on the other side, it was almost like, when I saw the beauty in that relationship and when I saw all the good qualities I saw in him, like finally being able to share my life with someone who sees me, who loves me, who adores me. So then that part of me is like, oh, she's willing to go the extra mile to create a safe environment for me. It's almost like, that little kid that lives within us. So now that part of me trusts me. Once I made that leap, I've been able to make even bigger decisions, all kind of interesting decisions. And that part is just trusting me more, trusting me more. So it's a matter of having a conversation with ourselves and not running away from ourselves. It's always good to go for therapy, to have a mentor, to have a coach, but it's very important to sit down and have a conversation with ourselves. What I still do, I still go on a date with myself. I do a dinner date or a lunch date, and I do a coffee date every month, sometime weekly basis. I sit down sometime in my car and I'll say, hey, Alia, how are you feeling? In that moment, I'm talking to that part of me that didn't really trust me. And then I switch into that and I give that part a voice. And sometimes she'll say like, I'm scared. I'm not comfortable. You haven't been talking to me. You have not checked in with me. And then I get to ask, okay, what do you need from me? And then she'll tell me, okay, yes, I need this, this, and that. And then I give that to myself. I think that is such a powerful way to build that self-trust, because any kind of betrayal leads to breaking of the trust. But we betray ourselves more than any partner could have ever betrayed us. And that betrayal comes from because I don't know how to be with myself, or it's too much to face myself, or there's so much going on within me that I don't even know how to hold that energy. I'm so overwhelmed, so I'm just gonna go do something else.
I was just thinking there, like, I loved a lot what you said there, but one of the ones is like, give yourself permission to make a mistake.
Yeah.
Like, we are all flawed human beings. Like, we all, every one of us listening, everyone in the world, we're all make mistakes. But for some reason, we're really our harshest critic. Another thing I loved what you said is just, we don't, I'm just thinking like how you look after yourself. Like, you're in the car, even, you just say, what do I need? I don't think many of us do that, where we just sit quietly once a week, even, and just sit there and go, what do I need? I don't think many of us do that. I
Yeah.
don't.
Because
And how important it is.
there's just so much on our plate. Like, look at any woman, any part of the world, there's just so much on our plate, and we are expert in overfilling our plate. And this requires creating like 1/4 of your plate has to belong to you, and it needs to be empty space. So that right there is very uncomfortable to do. Where I'm just going to dedicate, it feels selfish. Um, and a lot of us are conditioned that, oh, you're being selfish, don't do it. You were created to nurture everybody else. But I believe the first person I need to nurture is me, because I'm the root of the tree. If I'm not nurtured properly, the tree that is our family is not going to exist for a very long time, or it's not going to be very healthy. And, as you were mentioning before, what we talked about, like, all the guilt and I'm a failure, all that comes from that pressure we put on ourselves that I need to be perfect. But the truth is, we are not perfect. So I think the more we accept I am a human, I am going to make mistakes, and I am allowed to make mistakes, it takes off that pressure from whether we are going through divorce or whether we just lost our job or another big change is going, then we are not so rigid towards ourselves. We can create so much loving space. Okay, let's see what's next. Let's see what I do with this, new relationship. Like, I've been married for 1.5 years at this point, and it is so much fun. I get to do so many experiments in my relationship where, okay, I am I am consistently working on how much more can I expand to receive from him, because there was a big receiving block, which I learned as soon as we started living together. The closer he came, the more that part of me contracted. And that was the part of me that was still learning to trust another human. And just staying with that, seeing my own growth, my own expansion, how much more I am open to receiving. It is fascinating. Like, I wouldn't not, I, if I didn't make this decision or gave myself to make this mistake, I would have never had this much fun. Like, this is different kind of fun. You get to see your own growth. And the same thing goes with divorce. When we give ourselves to maybe someone is listening and they're standing on the edge. Should I go for it, or should I stay? Should I give it 5 more years, or should I wait till kids are 18? I would say go for it, make the mistake, and then be curious what happens afterwards. And when I went for divorce, eventually, after 5 years of waiting, when I went for it, I did the same thing. I was like, maybe Alia, this could be a mistake, but you would only learn on the other side. And I learned. I was much happier. My son is definitely so much happier after the divorce. His dad is so much happier. Because if his dad was not good for me, I was not good for him either. With another person, he did really good in his career. Like, he's blooming. I can see his growth and expansion. We don't realize when we are stuck in this toxic relationship, we all are contributing to keep each other small. And when we let go of that control and we step into curiosity and a willingness to make a mistake, everybody gets to flourish.
Yeah, I think what you said there is not many people, I guess, think of it that way, right? Like, we've talked about today, it's like we all feel like failures, and society makes us feel like failures too, right? So we feel it outwardly as well as inwardly. But what you're saying is you can really flourish. Like, all of you, not just you, but even your ex, your children, everybody can flourish. I don't think that's talked about enough in the divorce world. It's more that heaviness of it all. And I think what you're saying there is really needs to be expressed more and said outwardly more, because there is that real potential possibility that, for me too, I have grown so much since leaving, right? Like, it's taken a while. Confidence has had to been built up and self-worth. But if I had thought where I am now compared to where I was 10 to 12 years ago, my goodness, the growth has been,
Massive.
substantial.
Yeah. Because what we don't realize that divorce is kind of death. Imagine a person is on deathbed and they are holding on to life. They're like, no, I'm not going to leave this body. I'm just going to stay here. So what we usually do, we put that person on ventilator and we can keep them for like 5 years. But are they doing anything? They're just laying there. That is how most of us are when we are in a relationship that has already served its purpose. The relationship has come to an energetical death, but we are holding on to it because we want control. We like the safety that it brings, or, the familiarity. Like a lot of us, we look at, my parents, they've been married for like 60 years, so I should stay in it too. Like we have those kind of role models, so we push ourselves to stay in it. But, when we let go, when that person who's holding on to their body, when they let go, the soul is free. It can go do other things. That is the same way when we let go. Our soul is free to express itself in a different way. Like, look at you, the platform you have created. I'm sure you're bringing light to so many people. And that is you're really adding way more into the world. Maybe you could have if you were still in that marriage. The same thing with me. So when we let go, there's always expansion. There's always expansion. As you said, it might take a little bit of time because we need to find ourselves again in the rubbles. And there is that identity shift that we go through, and that might require a couple of years. But eventually when we get hold of ourselves, when we are back into our center, we're back into our heart, we are much more elevated version than we were when we were still in the relationship.
And think about, as what I also liked you said, is when you start becoming more of who you are, who you're attracting. So if you
Exactly.
want to remarry, if you've been working on yourself a lot, then like you're probably going to attract a different type of person in your life than you did when you were younger. I know I
Exactly.
did, right?
Yeah, same here. I think what my husband is, he's a reflection of my relationship with myself. I learned to love myself deeply, unconditionally. He shows up with the same love. That was the first thing I noticed when we started dating. He would talk to me the way I talk to myself. He would look after me the way I look after myself. It was so fascinating to see how he was mirroring what existed within me. And
Mm.
that is where I knew, yeah, finally we're on the right track. But like my husband, he's truly the other part of my soul. We both are born on the exact same day, exact same time. So living with him is literally living with a mirror. He has same issues that I have and same gifts that I have. It is so fascinating to live with that. But the path that it took to get to him, the shift that had to happen within me to attract him, as you're talking about, that was the process of coming back to me, coming back to my heart, coming back to the place that I had abandoned a long time ago. And when we come back to ourselves, it's almost like we attract another part of us back to us in terms of a relationship.
I also thought you were saying that is also that wanting a man is different than needing, right? I know you wrote your book, Breaking Away from the Shadow of the Man. I don't know if you want to talk about that for a minute, but I'm thinking needing is not wanting, right? Like, so I think there's a difference in what you want to attract, right? I think for my generation, it was more like you need to get a man, you need a man to make yourself happy. And I think we've been discussing today that that's not always so, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think needing anything is not good in our, um, like when I need something, I'm not in my heart because that has underlying belief that I'm not complete. That means I think there's a lack within me. I have already turned against myself, so now I'm not in my heart. Because heart is the place where we are already complete. And when we need, whether it's I need more kids, I need a kid, or I need a house, or I need a man, then we are approaching it more from our, I will say, disconnected ego, because ego can be very aligned to the heart. But then when the ego is disconnected from the heart, then it's all about what can I get to make myself feel safe. And that relationship never ends well. And there are a lot of people who come out of one relationship, they jump into another one, and it is because they needed to fill the gap that got created and they needed the title sooner than later. And then after, like, 3-5 years, they realize it's the same relationship just with a different face. And then, it just reinforces the trauma and the mistrust and the lowering of our self-esteem. Like, it just reinforces all of that all over again. But if we can just look at it, how can I heal the need all by myself? How can I show for myself on such a deeper level where I start to feel whole and complete? I think that is a wonderful place to start dating or start attracting someone. I highly believe in doing the inner work before we jump into another relationship. Because, we went through that death. To me, divorce is a death. We went through that death for a reason. And whenever we have a death in the family, death of a loved one, there's a mourning period. Now, that could be a month for someone, 3 months, or it could be a 2 year. So we need to sit with ourselves and ask ourselves, how long do I need to process this heaviness and find myself again? And it will be different for different people. Um, and once we start to feel that wholeness within ourselves, where we're like, I don't really need a person, but I would love to have somebody's company. For example, my motive to remarry was, I know I love myself. I don't need someone to love me. Um, I have so much love within me. I was looking for a person so I can share my love, because I knew I have so much love within me. Like, I'm sure there's a man out there who would love to receive my love. And it's so interesting. My husband was looking the same way. He's full of love. He has a very healthy relationship with himself. And he was looking to share that love with someone. So whatever I was doing, I attracted the same. But I think if any point I was in a place where I was right after I got divorced. I remember the very first year I was like, I'm going to get married within 1 year and I'm going to show everybody there's nothing wrong with me and there's a man out there. I was in that. Once I got into dating and what I was attracting was like, there's disconnect within me. So then I paused for like 3-4 years to work on that. So I think giving ourselves permission to heal ourselves, to come back to ourselves, is the most beautiful gift we can give to ourselves. And always look at it as I'm coming out of, death of this relationship. I want to nurture myself before I'm ready to share my life with someone else.
Yeah, that's beautifully said. I'm trying to think if I have anything else to ask you. Do you have anything to add before I ask the last question?
The only thing I will say, whoever is listening, whether again you're going through divorce or you're thinking of divorce, I would say fall in love with yourself. Do whatever it takes to fall in love with yourself, head over heels. That is the process of coming back to your heart. The way life lights up when we are so madly in love with ourselves, that is the kind of joy that no healthy relationship can give to us. Having the blessing of a healthy relationship with yourself is the most important thing.
I just love that. It's so brilliantly said and so important. So this is the last question I ask. For someone who is just separated, whether they left or were left, what advice would you give them to help them navigate those overwhelming early days?
I will definitely say write. Even if you're not a person who journal, write what you're feeling. It does two things. I'm also a pranic healer, so I work with energy. It takes that energy out of you and on the paper. And also it starts to give you perspective, because what happened when we are so overwhelmed and a time come our brain can't even handle like all the different things that are happening. It's all in front of you and you can make better choices and better decisions. Because one of the things that happens with a lot of women, when we are so overwhelmed, we're like, oh, this person is giving me hard time and I have done that thing too. Okay, I don't want the childcare. I don't want this. I just want out of here. So a lot of even financial advisors, they talk about it. We let go of a lot of the things that we could have had in terms of support because we are so overwhelmed. We let it go. So writing, spending alone time with yourself, going out for a walk, whatever it looks like, something that slows you down. So practice slowing down for at least 15 minutes a day, if not an hour, and especially if you have kids after they go to bed, spend some time with yourself. That is the practice I kept. I spent time with myself and just kept writing, kept focusing on, and I can guarantee you that you're going to rediscover yourself in such a beautiful way. And 2 years from today, you'll say, this was the best decision of my life.
I love that. So I know you have a book, Breaking Away from the Shadow of a Man. And what else do you have to offer?
So I do a free workshop every Thursday, 1 p.m. I restarted after taking a break. And that is where, anyone who's going through a big life change or whatever they're going through, or if they want to work on healing their relationship with themselves. So I teach wholeheartedly. And after the Zoom is ended, we also get into Q&A. So if someone wants to come talk to me about something that they're overwhelmed with, they can join that. They can go to my website, which is aliajamalcoaching.com, and under resources, they'll find the sign up.
Oh, that sounds great. So it's 1 o'clock Eastern every Thursday?
Yes.
Oh, that's
And
wonderful.
then I send out the recording. So if someone is working around that time, they cannot join. I send out the recording. They can watch it. They can respond to the email. They can ask question. I'm available as a resource. So I'll say, please use it.
Well, I love this conversation because I don't think most of us have had enough self-love in our life. And I really think it's we are our most important person for ourselves, right? And we don't tend to think that way.
Yeah.
So I really, really thank you for coming on, and I really hope you reach out to Alia, because I think she's got a lot of wisdom that we all need to hear. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Karen. Thank you so much for this opportunity to be able to share heart's wisdom. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for joining today's conversation with our divorce expert. Check out the show notes for more about our guests, and don't forget to follow us on Spotify and our YouTube channel, divorceworkshop.ca. We'd love to hear from you. Share your questions, comments, or guest suggestions. And for a complete guide to navigating separation and divorce, check out the Just Separated workbook on Amazon. It covers emotions, co-parenting, finances, legal insights, and recovery. A must-have for anyone going through separation or divorce.